Hi, welcome to Cooking with Casey. This is episode 1, and we're making seafood Alfredo. Today we're going to be using bay scallops, shrimp, we have some diced shallots, some chopped porcini mushrooms, freshly grated Parmesan Reggiano, we have heavy whipping cream, garlic, a few pads of Irish butter, and an assortment of spices we'll go over in just a minute. So as you can see, I have a lot of spices laid out here. I prefer a lot of spice in my cooking. If you don't, that's okay. You don't have to use everything I do, but I'm going to go over what I have. I have dried parsley, starting here at the end. Then I have garlic and herb spice, onion powder, garlic powder. I have cayenne pepper, which is a little bit of more of a heat kick in the back. Black pepper, Tony Sachery's, which is a Creole seasoning, or Cajun seasoning, and then I have Morton iodized salt. So I went ahead and I'm using about a quarter teaspoon of salt, and I'm splitting it between the two, so I've got about 1/8 of a teaspoon in each one. And the reason I'm not putting a lot of salt is because I'm using Creole seasoning also, and there is a lot of salt in that already. We're going to be adding about a half teaspoon in total to each one of these, so quarter and quarter, because you kind of want your Creole spice a little bit because it adds some really good flavor. That's just kind of what I like to use. Again, use what you want. It's your kitchen. You don't have to use everything verbatim. I'm also going to add some garlic and herb. I really like the fact that it's got some nice fresh herbs in there. And again, because this is kind of an Italian dish, it imparts a lot of flavor. Put some garlic powder. And I kind of eyeball everything, as you can kind of see. So that's just kind of the way I cook. And then some onion powder. Onion powder is really good. It gives kind of a good depth of flavor. Some parsley. And also going to be adding some black pepper. A little bit to both. And some cayenne pepper. And that just adds a little bit of a kick. Now I'm going to go ahead and just mix this all together so I can kind of coat every square inch of this. See, that kind of just gets on there. It's a good rub on everything for the seafood especially. I like to use Cajun spices with my seafood. It just kind of, you ask anybody who's been to the South or grew up especially in Louisiana, my whole mom's side of the family's from Louisiana, Cajun goes on everything. So we're going to go ahead and add one pat of butter to the pan, let that start to heat up. So I'm just going to roll this around, kind of coat every inch of my pan. Now that the butter has already gone ahead and melted down, I'm going to go ahead and add our freshly chopped scallops. Here's our shallots in the pan. If you don't have shallots, you can use red onion. I really wouldn't use yellow onion for this dish, but it's entirely up to you. We're just going to keep them sauteing. So we're cooking the shallots till they become soft. So I'm going to keep kind of turning them over. You can already see they're starting to break down, just what you're looking for. And we're going to do kind of the same process here. The reason I did the shallots first is because shallots take a while to kind of cook down. And mushrooms don't take as long. And so we're going to cook that all together, kind of marry the two. So we just added another little pat of butter to this pan. The reason being is because it kind of helps everything cook down. And as you can see, it's got butter now covering everything rather than it being dry. And the only thing that was wet was the actual onions themselves. And so it helps everything cook down appropriately. Okay, so I'm just going to keep this over here on kind of a medium-low fire just so it kind of keeps cooking because obviously I need to keep breaking that down. But I want to get started on the seafood at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and add pat of butter to this pan over here. We'll let that start to melt down and I'll kind of work it around the edges, same way I did the last one. Okay, so now that the butter is melted, I'm going to go ahead and add the bay scallops in. Kind of get these evenly coated in here, and then I'm going to kind of get them back towards one side. And I'm going to add the shrimp in as well. Both bay scallops, shrimp, they don't take very long to cook. That's why that's something I was kind of holding off on cooking till towards now. Because the mushrooms and the onions, that takes a while to cook. In terms of seafood, it cooks relatively quickly. Starting to cook down the way I want it. I'm just going to start to flip this around and get that cooking. I want to get it to cook kind of evenly on every side. I'm looking for that nice pink color in the shrimp. Bay scallops are starting to already cook through. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we're cooking until we start to see that pink color come out on the shrimp, the natural color of the shrimp actually becoming cooked. And as you can see, our scallops are getting cooked through as well. We'll cut one open so you can see. That is fully cooked in the middle. It's no longer opaque. It's now a nice solid white, and it's got a good texture to it. Okay, so we're gonna come back over here now. I'm gonna turn that one off. And we're gonna go ahead and marry everything together in this pan. This one's a little bit bigger, so it works better for making my sauces. We're gonna go ahead and add our last bit of butter here. I'm also gonna add some fresh garlic, minced garlic that I have here. I'm not gonna use all of this. I'm actually probably gonna use about tablespoons amount, roughly. I'll add that in. You can add what you need to. I mean, I like garlic. Everybody in my house likes garlic a lot, so we're gonna use a little bit more than most probably would. And now you can also see the mushrooms and now you can start to smell that garlic. It's very aromatic. Mix this all around. You can see all my vegetables have cooked down. I'm gonna go ahead and add in my seafood that we just cooked over there. Get all that goodness out of the pan and into there. Don't want to leave any of that flavor behind. Now we're going to go ahead and add some of this heavy whipping cream to the pan. This is how we're going to start to make our sauce. So we make everything all together. There we go. Just kind of coat the top there. Now, if you don't have heavy whipping cream or you can't find it, considering that, you know, it's the apocalypse apparently, you can always get milk and you can use a little cornstarch. It'll thicken up your sauce the same way. You'll still want to add the Parmigiano Reggiano because that cheese adds a really, really good flavor to it. And that's also how you make an Alfredo. Okay, and as that's starting to cook down, I'm going to just start to slowly sprinkle in the cheese that we had grated earlier, and that's what will tie that sauce together. So I also just added a little black pepper and some garlic and herb spice. At this point, we're just waiting for that sauce to kind of thicken up. So you kind of keep going back and forth with your cheese until you get that consistency you're looking for, which is a nice kind of creamy texture. Now we're just going to go ahead and scoop that right on top there. I'm just going to garnish with a little bit of dried parsley here. Finally, a little freshly grated cheese right on top. Today we made our seafood Alfredo pasta, and I'm gonna start eating. We'll see you next time.